minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for our panel for being here. Appreciate it. And I think the gentleman from Illinois said a little bit earlier we have two different hearings going on, so we're kind of shuffling back and forth, so I'm sorry I missed your opening statements. But if I could, Administrator, if I could start with my questions with you. When the EPA finalized the rule, it granted multiplier incentives for electric vehicles, fuel cell vehicles, and natural gas vehicles. These incentives are useful to automakers in meeting the standards and encourages the production of these alternative fueled vehicles. However, it did not extend these multiplier incentives to propane-powered vehicles. This exclusion puts propane vehicles at a regulatory disadvantage compared to those from the other alternative fuels. Could you explain why the propane vehicles weren't given the equitable treatment by the EPA when the rule was finalized?
You know, Congressman, I wasn't intimately involved in the development of the 2012 rule, so I'd like, if I could, to get back to you with a specific answer to that question.
Yeah, if you could, because that's important. And kind of following up with that, with the midterm evaluation underway, will the EPA continue to examine the application of the multiplier incentives or other compliance incentives at this time?
Well, the charge in our rule is to look at the standards themselves in 2022 through 2025 and determine whether they are still appropriate or whether they should be made less stringent or more stringent. We will see what comment we get from people on the draft TAR, and of course carefully consider any input that we get as we make that particular regulatory recommendation.
Because that's kind of following up on the second point. I just want to make sure then that because you would be willing then to reconsider the exclusion of the propane from the current incentives in order to bring parity to the alternative fuel marketplace?
Well, I can't speak to it specifically today, Congressman, but it certainly will take your concern back to my team.
Okay, but if I could hear back from you, I'd appreciate that.
Sure.
Mr. Hemmersball, the NHTSA just released the proposed guidelines for autonomous vehicles earlier this week. In making the announcement, the Secretary said that your agency would be conducting a number of public meetings around the country, which I support. I think that kind of transparency and public engagement is important, and one thing that would be tremendously helpful here would be if the NHTSA and the EPA would be willing to hold similar public workshops to review the technical assistance report methodologies with technical experts, especially given the significance of TAR. Would the agencies be willing to commit to holding a public workshop or a series of workshops?
Prior, as you may know, prior to publishing the TAR, we had a technical workshop which we went through with all the experts and sort of walked through the technical concerns and features of the TAR. But we are, going forward, we are committed to getting as much public input as we can. We have, as you know, a comment period, but we're going to continue to take data and information in any way we can get it that we can reasonably accommodate it until we get to the notice of proposed rulemaking for the NHTSA standards. So I can't say today that we necessarily will do X and Y field hearings or anything like that, but it's